Martial arts is something that has been practiced by people of color for quite a long time now and becoming more and more of a lifestyle. And I have a young lady on here to talk a little bit about just how she got into martial arts as well as her introduction into sports and health and fitness. We want to welcome Donnita Jacob. Hello, how are you?
Hello. Hi. I'm great. Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure being here.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you so much. So every story has a beginning. You have an interesting upbringing. Matter of fact, you're based out of Toronto, Canada, but we're going to get into that a little bit later. But your upbringing was, let's just say it was very sunny and on the island side. So tell our audience, what was your upbringing like and where did you grow up?
All right. So I was originally born and grew up in the beautiful country of Trinidad and Tobago. So I come from the island. I lived there up until I was about, I want to say 21. And, you know, it was an awesome thing. And I'm glad that you mentioned martial arts because that's where all of my discipline and life values stem from. I was lucky enough to be born into a family of martial artists and fitness instructors. So this is a lifestyle for me. This is all I know. This is what I love. This is what I'm passionate about. And, yeah, so I lived in Trinidad up until I was about 21 years of age. And then I migrated to Vancouver, BC. I lived there for about 10 years. And I also worked in the fitness and martial art industry over there as well. And then I moved over to Toronto, and I'm growing my company, IslandVibeFitness. And my goal here is now to, you know, help people through fitness and martial arts, helping them conquer life through fitness and martial arts, and helping them to live a positive and healthy lifestyle.
All right, we're going to talk more about that in a minute, but I want to continue about your introduction to sports and health and fitness. You mentioned that you come from a family of martial artists and you were brought up into it at a very early age, but when I think of Trinidad, I think, or just the Caribbean in general, the first sports that come to my mind are soccer and, of course, track and field. I mean, that region, that part of the world is a hotbed for track and field. Was track and field your first sport, or was it just martial arts or other sports?
You know, well, I've dabbled and dabbled in a lot of different sports. Actually, you know, in Trinidad, cricket is also a really big sport. You know, so we have cricket. There's a bunch of different things. So I've done some track and field, you know, in high school and stuff like that. I was pretty decent at it. You know, being pretty athletic. You know, I played netball and stuff like that in high school. I played cricket. I was actually on the national team, Malvern, back in Trinidad and Tobago for a short period of time playing field hockey. So I've tried different sports, but martial arts, it just kind of stuck with me just because, as I said, my family's business is martial arts. And, you know, I was just on the dojo. So the dojo is the martial arts house, pretty much, per se. And so I was born and I was literally in Pampers on the floor there on the dojo, you know. So this is just a way of life for me, and I kind of just stuck with it, you know, my entire life.
I want to stay with your family for a moment. You mentioned that you were brought up in the martial arts at a very early age. What forms of martial arts did your parents practice?
Okay. Mainly, it's my dad. So his, you know, his story is, I know the program is about me and what I do, but, you know, you can't talk about you and you can't talk about where you're going in life unless you know where you've come from. So my foundation is from my dad in particular. And, you know, his organization, the organization that he's developed is now worldwide, it's now international. It's called Purple Dragon DonJitsuRyu. And this is where it stems for me. So I started at the age of 3 years old, right? I did my first, you know, international demonstration at the age of, I want to believe, at 4. And that was it. That was in Grenada. Okay, so I practiced, I perform my block routines and everything like that. But, yeah, so the system, as I said, you know, it's called Purple Dragon DonJitsuRyu, and it's a mixture of jiu-jitsu, judo, aikido, goju-ryu, taekwondo, you name it, right? So my dad actually studied with some instructors, world-renowned, like Professor Moses Powell, Sensei Clyde Thomas. He also studied in Japan. And then in his years of studying, he formulated his own system, all right? And he actually started at the age of 9 years old. Can you imagine? So he was actually started this at 9 years old just because he had to, it was either, back in Trinidad, it's either, in those days, he was being bullied, you know, being coming out from, you know, poverty and stuff like that. Some people call it the ghetto. He called it home. So But he was being bullied, and those days, either he had to learn to fight or run. And actually, he was actually a really good athlete. He could run, but at the same time, he chose to learn to fight. So in the initial stages, when he began learning martial arts, it was more so for, he wanted to learn to beat up these guys. But while he started practicing and learning the discipline aspect of it, he saw the discipline side of things, and he started seeing martial arts as a form of vocation, you know what I mean? And then he realized, wow, this is something I can actually do to help other people as well as help myself. And then he studied, and then he started teaching under a breadfruit tree. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's a tree. And started his business at the age of just 15, actually, 15 years old.
Oh, wow.
Teaching people. So here you have this young black man coming out of poverty. He's learning, he's teaching, and he's giving back to the community. And then it started growing and stuff like that. And then it started growing, and now we have locations worldwide up to now, today. So this is where it's at. It's amazing coming from such a humble background, and I don't take those kind of things for granted. He's worked really hard, and he's instilled those disciplines in me and my brother. Tragically, I lost a brother back in Trinidad and Tobago back in 2000, and I want to believe 2, to violence and crime. He was just at the wrong place, wrong time. My dad bought him a vehicle and for Christmas. And he said, Antonio, it's your responsibility now to get the insurance for the car. I bought you the car, but, teaching us responsibility, right? So he got the car from my brother. He dropped him off to the insurance company. And, my brother was just at the wrong place, wrong time. Some robbers or some bandits came in. He was wearing some jewelry, and they shot him right in the back and took his stuff. So at the end of the day, yes, you can learn martial arts and all this stuff, but, martial arts doesn't, a lot of people would say, look at this family, they teach martial arts and they do this, and they still lost one of theirs due to crime and violence. But martial arts, you really can't stop a bullet. But more so, you have to understand the lessons in life. You know what I mean? So that time for me was a very tragic time in my life, and I had to deal with a lot. And if I didn't have the martial arts and the discipline and the humility and the respect and learning how to be humble and learning how to be strong and confident, I probably wouldn't have gotten through that. And that was actually one of the other reasons why I decided to leave home in Trinidad and venture out to Vancouver, was to be closer to my other brother, Daniel, my eldest brother.
Certainly that despite going through what your dad had to go through, he turned that negative into a positive and started his own business at a young age. And then what you went through with your brother, you were still able to kind of as they say, pick up the pieces and put it together and try to reform, and for you and your family as well. And that's as they say, turning definitely a big negative into a positive. And I want to get into a big positive, which is personal training. How did you get involved in the world of personal training?
So, well, the thing is, as I said, I'd always been very interested in fitness and martial arts, being that my dad is a martial artist and my mom at the time, she was a fitness instructor. So I was in her tummy while she was teaching fitness classes up until I believe she was something like 8 months pregnant. So I guess they say the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. You know what I mean? And so it's just embedded in me. And I got into fitness. I want to say more so when I came to Vancouver back in 2009. Just wanted to do something different. So I studied personal training. I've always been intrigued by all these muscles and the aesthetics of fitness. But then I got a little bit further into it, and I started becoming passionate about helping other people. So I studied at a place called InfoFit. I did my ISSA. I also studied massage therapy. And my look on things was, at that point, learn as much as I can in the fitness industry, and I could bring it back to my family's business and now add this element, right, to the family business. You know what I mean? So it's all about growth and just helping people. The personal training per se, being mobile, going to people's homes, going to their condos. People come to me at my studio, just sharing the positivity and helping people to get where they need to be and just feel good about themselves and about life.
Absolutely, you're right about that, and you're doing that as well. And I want to get more into your martial arts background. Now, can you tell our audience what levels of martial arts do you practice? Because we know there's different varieties. There's Taekwondo, there's Judo, there's Jiu-Jitsu, and there's BJJ. But what fields of martial arts are you skilled in, and what titles do you hold?
So the thing is this, right? A lot of people are familiar with Jiu-Jitsu, they're familiar with Judo, they're familiar with Aikido. and they're very familiar with Taekwondo. Now, DonJitsuRyu is the style that I study. All right, so it's DonJitsuRyu. My dad's name is Don, so he named it after himself, and because he is the founder of the system. So just like you have Jiu-Jitsu or Judo, this is DonJitsuRyu. It's his particular style. It's a particular style, right? So he formulated his own system based on these other styles. All right. So I can also, I can take a part. So if I were to enter a Jiu-Jitsu competition, I can compete in Jiu-Jitsu. If I were to enter Judo competition, I can do Judo. Yeah, I could. So my system or my style, I can pick the pieces apart. But more so, DonJitsuRyu is not just a kicking and punching style. It's more so a lifestyle. Okay, and this is what we try to implement in our students. It's more about the philosophy, you know what I mean? Respecting the value of all existing lives, being unstoppable, being impeccable with your words, just being able to, it's more so that anybody who passes through our system, they are more than likely to, how do I say this without sounding, but I'm just going to say it. Anybody who passes through our system, they're more likely to succeed in life because DonJitsuRyu provides or gives you a template for success, if that makes sense. All right? So this is, it's physical. We kick, we punch. We do point sparring as well. We do continuous fighting. So, it's a little bit of boxing. It's a little bit of, this type of thing. We have katas. So but DonJitsuRyu has a different type of rhythm. It has a different type of rhythm to it. Being formulated or being born from an African man, a black man, my dad. So that energy, that tempo, when you do a kata, it's different. It's energetic. It's vibrant. It's not boring to look at. You're gonna get a lot of woos and wows. We have jumps. We have spin kicks. We have diving rolls. We have it's a really, really beautiful art to look at.
Wow, that's interesting right there. I want to ask you, this form of martial arts that your dad created called DonJitsuRyu, is it similar to capoeira or is it similar to taekwondo or is it a combination of everything?
It's a combination. I want to say it's a combination. Capoeira, it's a Brazilian art, okay? So they say, and it was used to camouflage the seriousness. So, when these people were enslaved, capoeira was formulated. It looked like a dance. So, the slave masters and they would think that the people training, they're actually just dancing and celebrating and having fun, whereas they were actually training. And this is actually a really some lethal techniques can be found in capoeira. Okay, but just the same thing like DonJitsuRyu. So we say a kata. So a kata is a movement or it's a form. So when we do a kata, it's it's expression, okay? It's an expression and it is a fight against many imaginary opponents. You know what I mean? So we see it before it happens, if that makes sense, right? So when you stand and you get ready and you're about to start your kata, I can tell you how many people I'm fighting in a kata. A lot of people, they do movement. You see a lot of martial artists and they just do movement because they're going through the movement. But when you see a DonJitsuRyu student doing a kata, you can actually see the fight in the fight. You know what I mean? And that's what makes it very unique, a really unique style and very rhythmic, right? So, yeah, and it's also very lethal, for sure.
Well, speaking of very lethal, I know you've put your martial arts skills to the test in the media. Tell our audience a little bit about some commercials that you've done. Tell us, our audience, about the GMC and the Jeep commercials that you did.
Okay. This is the thing. I also am in the fitness and fitness and film industry, and I got into that actually from a very young age. Again, my dad kind of got me doing that he gave me an early start with that back in Trinidad, and then I lost touch. And when I came to Vancouver, this agent scooped me up. She saw my talent, and she said, "Wow, I want to work with you." Anyways, so I was reached out by GNC, the supplement company. They wanted to know my story. It was a great opportunity to speak with you, just like to speak with them, just like I'm speaking to you guys, and just telling them my background and my mindset and how I was able to, succeed through all my adversities and trials and tribulations and everything like that, because that's where a lot of my passion comes from. right? So this was actually done for the Super Bowl back in 17. I've done a few things for Jeep as well, you know, and some of those things can be seen on YouTube and stuff like that.
Awesome to hear. So now I know that you're a rarity in the world of martial arts, but women of color are becoming more and more prevalent in the world of martial arts. What tips do you have for women of color that want to get into martial arts?
Well, the thing is this, right? I would like to give tips to all women, not just women of color in particular, but all women, although I would like to see little girls who look like me to take the flag and keep it going. But I would like to get all women interested in the martial arts and fitness industry. My advice to them is take it one step at a time. A lot of people feel like, okay, I'm 20 now, or I'm 25, or I'm 60. It might be too late to start. It's never too late to start. We have students at the age of, I want to say, 80 years old in the DonJitsuRyu system, just starting out. So just be mindful, take it easy, do what you can do. This is the other thing, the great thing about DonJitsuRyu. We're more so about making you or getting you to find or compete with yourself, right? So when the first day you step on the floor, you're not looking, when you bow, from the time you bow, that is, you know, you're surrendering yourself. It's humility, right? So you just want to be humble, come with an open mind, all right? And that's what it's about, just, you know, surpassing yourself. And that's what it is. What I would do, though, if I could give a tip for women who are not really in the martial arts, but you want 3 techniques. I don't know if you could visually vision it right now, but I would give you 3 techniques for self-defense for women. I think is a must know. All right? It would be a palm heel strike to the nostril or to the nose. Okay? So I don't know if you could vision it, but these are my 3 top techniques. So it would be a palm heel strike to the nose. Okay, it would be a knee to the groin area. All right? And the other one is to learn to run. Learn to run and learn to scream. A lot of people, when they're in situations, sometimes because of flight or fright, you don't know how it's going to affect you. And you try, I don't know if you've ever had a situation where you're in a situation and you're scared or something, or you know, and you just get, you're stuck, you can't get the sound out. Right? So you got to practice. Practice at home, you know, in a quiet space. Don't disrupt your neighbors if you have neighbors, but just get in the habit of learning to make noise, building that confidence, learning to say ki. And that's why in martial arts we make these sounds, ki, or you hear us making those sounds, so it becomes natural to us. It's a healing mechanism, right? So we, you know, so it is you know, you're boosting your confidence, in the process. Right, so this becomes a natural sound to you. You know what I mean? And that could just mean a ki can translate to saying, stop, leave me alone, I don't know you. Or, you know what I mean? Like things like that. Right, and that is the first thing that I believe women need to learn in the martial arts, or just more so, just, you know, for life defense.
Wow, that's some interesting tips right there. I wanted to ask, I never knew that when you said about people that learn martial arts and they make those noises like ha, yeah, and stuff like that. I didn't know that was being used as a healing mechanism. I learned something new. I wasn't aware of that.
Oh yes. You know, ki, and it's a ki is a very powerful tool. You know, it's funny, and I don't like to speak much on things that I'm not really familiar with. But if we look back into ancient history, right, if you look at the people like, well, you go back to places like Africa where we speak in different languages and you have to make different sounds. It's rhythmic, all right? We have, you know, you could feel it. It's a vibration. Your tongue moves differently in your mouth. You become healthier because of that. And then you have a language like English where it's just one tone, right? So a ki is very, very... It's very healing. It's a healing mechanism. You know, you could, and ki, you don't have to say the word ki, but you could just make your sound however you feel good doing it, okay? Depending on the strike or the kick or the hit. Yeah.
What projects are you working on?
I'm working on building my own company, which is called IslandVibeFitness. And of course I named it Island Vibe because I'm from the island. You know, and it's just a vibe. You know what I mean? You come to me, you do a session with me, you feel my positive energy. At least I hope so. That's what I try to instill and implement into people, you know, just making them feel good, Because at the end of the day, people don't care what you say. They care about how they feel about what you say. They care about how you feel about what you do. So my job, being in such a high-stress society, Toronto and Vancouver, it's one of the most expensive places to live in the world, right? Or people, anyways, that's a different conversation. But what I'm saying is, my thing is growing Island Vibe Fitness and just getting people to feel that positive energy. I go and I speak to the youth, working a lot with the youth, and I teach kids as well, one-on-one self-defense and martial arts. I teach women self-defense. I do boot camps. Yeah, and this is what it is. This is what I'm doing here in Toronto.
Awesome to hear. So now let our audience know where they can find you on social media, and if you have any websites, let them know that as well.
Yes, for sure. So you can find me. My website is www.islandvibefitness.com. You can reach me at 778-994-1277. That's my contact or my office. You can also reach me on Instagram at IslandVibeFitness. All right. So I look forward to meeting you guys and seeing you guys there.
Well, you heard it from her. She's Donnita Jacob. She is the owner of her own business, IslandVibeFitness, which is located in Toronto, and she's spreading the word about martial arts and just bringing positive vibes and making you feel really good. Donnita, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us.
You know what? Thanks for having me. I appreciate your time. And you know what, man? Keep doing what you do and keep spreading the positive outlook on life and different avenues. And, this was awesome. I really had fun with you guys. Thank you so much.
And thank you so much for those kind words. I really appreciate that.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into the channel. Remember to click like, share, and subscribe. And thank you for watching.